What's up, guys? Happy Wednesday evening. Thomas Mott, Josh Davis. It is the Wednesday Link Live. And boy, last time we talked, Josh, the Eagles didn't have superstar wide receiver Julio Jones on their roster. Well, I guess former superstar wide receiver Julio Jones. But a lot has changed. How are you doing on a Wednesday?
I'm doing well. Yeah, it's a lot has changed. You're right. On a Wednesday, we had kind of a impromptu, a quick live breakdown of the news of Julio Jones and everything there. But doing fairly well. We've got an injury report and other news that we're going to get into as far as the Dolphins matchup. So some good news, some not so great news. Curious to break it down, but doing well.
I think we go ahead and obviously start with the injury report as I get this ready to pull up onto the screen. It's not terrible, but it's not necessarily the best. So we're live right now on the screen. It says Reed Blankenship did not participate with the ribs. Lane did not practice with the ankle. More on him in a second. Roby's dealing with like a chest/shoulder situation. Doesn't seem to be as serious as people originally thought. Devontae Smith didn't practice today with a hamstring. He's had a couple of weeks now where he's missed practice for this or for that. That hamstring, I think, is bugging him, although I'm not worried. The good news is Carter ankle limited. That means he's going to go on Sunday. Goddard, he had groin at the very end of that loss to the Jets on Sunday. He'll be fine. And Slay with the knee. And Sidney Brown, full. Eli Ricks, full. Very, very good sign there for two people in the secondary who at least could be bodies to help out Philadelphia as they need as many as humanly possible. Let's quickly mention, though, the idea that Lane Johnson is going to be okay. I did a show this morning, and you mentioned a little bit last night. Brian Baldinger, someone I've met a couple times just in the whole business of things. He's very plugged in with Philadelphia. Obviously, I've been playing with Philadelphia Eagles, but a reporter, does stuff for Fox, does stuff for the NFL Network. He said he worked out with Lane Johnson in Lane Johnson's little backyard gym today, or I guess it was yesterday. He said that on Part of My Take and said, oh, he's going to be fine. Now, no one else has backed this up. Adam Schefter was on 97.5 The Fanatic today where he kind of said, I don't know, maybe, Lane's tough. Like, he didn't commit to it like Baldy did. It does sound like Johnson's going to give it a go if you believe Brian Baldinger.
It does. And I don't know. It's like you go on both sides to this. I would assume that Brian Baldinger is getting some good heads up here, some good knowledge, because again, as he mentioned, I mean, he's in the bro barn. He's working out where Lane Johnson works out. So, I mean, if anyone knows anything about Lane, they're very close. He does lots of film breakdown. Baldy does. He goes to the seminars. He does Lane Johnson's annual event of O linemen. So he's usually at that. I don't know necessarily. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know of any other one who's plugged in as closely to Lane Johnson and the pulse of like how he's feeling, what he's going to do, thoughts in general, things like that. Now, of course, he did, if we rewind all the way back to the offseason, Baldy made an interesting comment of like Lane Johnson maybe not preferring Cam Jurgens, so I don't know how truthful that was. And perhaps maybe there was some, actual truth to it. And then Lane's like, bro, hey, you can't be just saying everything that we talk about here. I don't know, but I still feel like Baldy's a lot closer to that situation. So I'm going to take it because, again, it's very positive news, but I'm going to take it that, we're leaning or trending in that right direction because we've heard from Jeff McClain as well that he's pushing to start. But you're right, that the first person to say, oh, no big deal, he's going to play, no concerns, it's Baldy, and we just haven't seen any other confirmations on that. But it's the Kelly Green game, right? You can't miss that one. Of course, he's going to push to play in this. He can't miss this.
Sidney Brown also said today he's 100%, so he will be back out there. He could see some serious reps, especially if Reed Blankenship is unable to go. Although the prognosis on Reed just 2 days ago was that he avoided major rib injury, just kind of re-aggravated the situation that kept him out of a couple of games. He might play, he might not, but at least you're going to have Ricks back there and Sidney Brown too. I mean, can we say difference makers at this point? They're rookies. One was undrafted, but better than, I guess, Mario Goodrich was, no longer with the team, and maybe even better than Roby was in the slot. Like, it's hard to say that we're going to be solved. Like, the problems are solved because you have Sidney Brown and Eli Ricks back, but at this rate, we'll take all the help we can get.
We absolutely would, yes. And, I guess it's depending on who you're questioning or who you're talking about there. I agree that it's better than a Mario Goodrich. And I think a lot of us would, say the same thing for a Mario Goodrich there. There's a reason why they released him. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if he clears waivers, then there's the open spot on the practice squad and they say, oh, come on back. We're going to sign you to the practice squad just because of familiarity. But yeah, there's lots of options there that can be better than Goodrich. For Roby, I mean, I thought he played fairly well. It's just the injury bug that we keep getting hit, not only with him and the plethora of names. I know the favorite, that everyone loves to tweet is as soon as that injury report comes out and it's a laundry list of names is injury report team dead, like the whole team's dead, because it just feels that way. It's like, oh my gosh, you're going down this list and saying, I didn't ever remember seeing that or hearing that about a player. And you've got, of course, again, there's limited participants. Today is a walkthrough. Wednesday's a walkthrough. So sometimes, let's not blow it out of proportion. It's an estimation of where they're at, but you can't fault the Eagles too. And we've known Sirianni has done this for quite some time. Yeah. Just give a guy a day off. So, sure, list him on the report, say, oh, he's, dealing with whatever. And not really anyone's 100% at this point. You're getting towards the middle part of the season. I don't think anyone's coming away going, yeah, hey, I feel great. There's no bumps or bruises or anything. So a day off for someone here or there, I think that's fine. But will be interesting, again, as we get towards the actual practices. If guys start missing those, then you start saying, there might be a little bit more of concern. But I am curious what we'll see from Sidney Brown, because he's said he's been raring to go. He would have gone if he could have, 3 weeks ago, but the doctors are like, let's pause on that hamstring issue. So do we see him at slot? Do we see him at safety? Combination of both, or with Reed Blankenship, like if he can't start, if he's out with the rib injury, it seems to suggest, wouldn't that mean that Sidney Brown goes in there with Terrell Edmonds? I don't know who else you go with. So lots of questions there. If you want to talk about a baptism by fire, I guess there's not a better team to do that against. You have the number one offense in the league coming in, so we'll see.
As long as Jalen Carter plays, big impact in the chances that Philadelphia has. They get pressure on Tua, especially internally between the the guard and the center and those A and B gaps, but also Darius Slay. If both of those players play, and maybe Reed Blankenship does as well, the defense is as close as you could possibly hope to being 100%, even though it's not even going to be close to 100% because Roby's probably going to miss, and there are other players we mentioned on this whole injury list. But I would say that overall, this is about as good as we probably could have hoped, minus getting like Devontae Smith added on there. But as you mentioned, it's a walkthrough, and so it's an estimation of if they were to practice today in full pads at full speed, then Smith would not have been able to go. So, we'll leave it right there and see how it is. You want to do Julio Jones next? Do you want to go ahead and do the giveaway from your channel? I'll let you decide.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and get the giveaway out of here. Okay. If you don't mind, I'll go ahead and share the screen. While I'm doing that, appreciate the support to everybody. If you haven't already, hit the like button. I think we've got almost 200 people here. So if you haven't, do that real quick. And we are going to share this spinner. So the people that predicted the sack total and Hassan Reddick to be the first sack getter in the last game, those are the names there. So I'm sharing the screen now, and we can get this giveaway done. Win the Jalen Carter Breadman hoodie. So, you ready?
Do it.
All right, let's spin the wheel. Who shall it be? Okay, it is. I don't exactly know how to say that name or what that is.
Aaron TDK. How about that?
5-6. But there you go. Congrats. You're the winner. If you're watching on the live show here, send me a message. I get the email in the link in the description there, or just DM me on Twitter at the PHI special. I'll also post it on my show. But congrats to Arant DK8256. There you go.
There you go. Winner for Josh's show. Let's move over here to Julio Jones, which you and I talked about extensively on both of our shows. I think both those shows have been watched a number of times. He was meeting with the Eagles media in front of his locker room with a Kelly Green hat and a Kelly Green helmet today. You see it on your screen. Pretty wild to see Julio Jones in an Eagles hoodie, let alone at an Eagles locker room. Again, if this was 5 years ago, we would all be wetting our pants with excitement here, the fact that he's actually a Philadelphia Eagle. But I don't know. His press conference today, Josh, I'm sure we'll both mention it in our shows tomorrow. He seems motivated. There was that infamous line where he said, I make no mistake, I'm here to dominate. He believes in himself. Now, again, it could be PR stuff. It could be him just, not saying, hey, I'm old and I stink and my hamstrings are no good. But he seems ready to rock. What did you think today?
Yeah, he does. He said all the right things. It's hard not to get caught up in and I've seen some people saying this too, and again, I'm partially there because it's hard not to just get caught up in the starstruck of this dude was incredible, right? We've all had him. I'm sure that just about all of us at one point throughout fantasy, the number of leagues that we play in, and everything else, you had him on your team 1 year out of the enormous stretch of games and seasons that he was phenomenal. And yeah, he is one of the best for a reason. So for him to be here, I saw tweets that saying it's unbelievable. I can't believe he's an Eagle. Seeing him and Kelly Green's going to be ridiculous. All those things are phenomenal. it is just the question. And I would have been curious too. Like Dave Zangaro is the one who asked him, hey, how much do you have left in the tank? And, you see his reaction. It's kind of, whoa, what? Like how much I have left? So,
Yeah.
it strikes a nerve there. Of course, you're still trying to make an impact in play. But like we talked about when the news first broke and we went live to just kind of give the immediate reactions, both of us were sitting there saying like, it's a fair question. What does he have left? Because if you look at the season totals, I mean, he hasn't been stellar at the last couple of years. So, is it a guy who can come in? I think it's a good signing. I think we both said that it's going to be a good signing, but is it one that is, astronomical in terms of getting this team over the hump, so to speak, or, what does this do for the offense? I think it will help, but it's just, we got to figure out how much that can be. I believe, and you saw this even in the playoff game for the Bucs. I mean, Julio Jones, I think he proves that at certain times he can be up to that level, but I just don't know about the consistency. But the good news, again, you could go back to the good news is you're not asking him to do that. Like he's not going to be the number 1, 2, 3, 4 option probably in this offense. So I'm curious to see. I like to see the fire. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for that. Have the passion, have the energy, but just curious to see what those numbers will be.
I'm with Jason Kelsey on 94.1 WIP this morning. He's like, I don't know how he fits, but I'm excited to have him as a teammate. And I kind of feel the same way. I don't know how he fits. I don't know how he's going to stay healthy, but I think Julio Jones understands what he's at right now. Like when he was traded to Tennessee, he knew deep down he wasn't going to be on a championship caliber football team. Now, at that point, with a young A.J. Brown, a younger Derrick Henry, Tannehill hadn't kind of, reached his peak yet. There was at least some playoff aspirations in Tennessee. This is his best chance to win a Super Bowl since that Falcon team that blew a 28-3 lead. Like, this is his best chance. Completely. And Julio understands that if he gets a ring, it cements his career as one of the greatest receivers of all time. Megatron didn't get one. A lot of the greats didn't, right? You got to go back to like the Jerry Rices of the world who did get rings. A lot of great receivers do not have rings. Larry Fitzgerald does not have a ring. Steve Smith does not have a ring. Like there's a ton of them who didn't. And he has to understand, if I stay healthy, I don't need to be the top receiver on this team. I could be the number 3 receiver on this team in terms of catches and yards. But if I contribute in a postseason game, you mentioned with the Bucs, give you 6 for 78 and a touchdown in a divisional round matchup against the Lions or whatever, this whole persona of Julio Jones is washed and he never got a ring could change real quick. So I think he understands what he's getting himself into. And my hope is that he can stay healthy enough in order to contribute. But as we mentioned, I don't know. I mean, Tracy Ann just said, you think Julio Jones try to solve some of the red zone problems? It'd be nice. I would prefer it versus 3 straight quarterback runs and a Kenny Gainwell handoff, right? We'd all be fine with that.
See, that's the problem, isn't it? Like you just said it. You just described it. It's the fact of what the play calling is going to be. Granted, you have an extra weapon here, but what's Brian Johnson going to do? I'm with you though. Yes, hopefully that's the lesson or the hope of getting him in here. But I talked about it on my show, and John McMullen, I think, was the first one who pointed it out. But I mean, Julio was not great in the red zone. Like that was the one knock on him. And I remember having him many years in fantasy going like, this dude is going to have so many catches, so many yards, but every single time they get in the red zone, it's like either he disappears or the Falcons, which I want to believe is the Falcons not putting him in the right spot because there's too much athleticism potential there. So hopefully the Eagles can figure it out. But you know what? I'm all for it, especially because we talked about it in a couple other shows of the running game. And we need to see a little bit of an extra emphasis there. You got a guy like that, a Julio Jones in the slot. I'm sorry, but if you got a comparison of a 5'8", 5'9" Olamide Zaccheaus versus a 6'2", 6'3", 220 Julio Jones to block for you, then come on, that's a given. We know for sure who you're going to take to block. So maybe you get some more benefit on that side as well. But I'm interested, man. I can't wait. I'll be curious too, like how quickly do they elevate him? Does he play against Miami? I mean, I think for sure if Smitty's down, I don't think Smitty will be because it was just kind of random, seemed out of the blues. But hey, you know what? Either way, I'd love to see it.
First off, I think he is going to play. I mean, there have been rumblings in the social media sphere that he will be elevated. He's 100% healthy. And you think about the Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh signings, they played right away. And Ndamukong Suh and Linval Joseph contributed. Now, they contributed in their own way, but there are plenty of games where Ndamukong Suh had pressures. He had a couple of sacks, a couple of tackles in the backfield. If Julio Jones on Sunday gets 4 balls for 58 yards, we're all going to sit back and be like, okay, this looks pretty good. Like that's the standard. And if he gives you that, hey, better than nothing. I would definitely take it. Let's go to some super chats here and mention that because it is Kelly Green week, which Josh did not get the memo, unfortunately, we are going to give away another Kelly Green jersey during our next live show. During our next game. So we're obviously going to be at the Dolphins game this weekend, which if you're going to be there, let us know. DM us on Twitter. We'll try and say hi to people as we're walking through the tailgates. But for the next game, the Commander game, we'll be giving away the jersey. But you can get your entries in right now, just like Andrew did just a couple of seconds ago. Here he says with 5 entries. You see the Jair Alexander trade rumors coming out of Green Bay media. What a trade for him looked like. He signed a new deal last year. This is interesting, Josh. We got 5 down here for Andrew. Each dollar you give from Super Chat is an entry equivalent, and we will draw this during the Commander game. But the Jair Alexander stuff did pop up. Yes, we saw this one. First off, quickly, Jeremy Chinn. He's going to be on IR. He's going to be out for 6 weeks. So Jeremy Chinn's rumors have officially died. So, RIP to Jeremy Chinn being an Eagle. But Alexander is different from Budda Baker and obviously Justin Simmons because of what you just said, the new deal. Now, Budda did get a new deal, so it's a little different. But Simmons is on the final year of his contract, and Chinn is as well, though, like we said, he's dead. So cheaper to trade for, but it's cheaper to keep as well, right? Like if you trade for Jair Alexander, you're taking on that contract. Whereas if you trade for somebody like a Justin Simmons, you just take on his baby little contract, and then you have the option to re-sign him like they did with C.J. Gardner-Johnson. So I am all for a Jair Alexander trade. I'm all for an anybody trade at this point. But I think the more likely option would be a Simmons because you could get him for a little bit cheaper, I think, if you wanted to re-sign after he's with in Philadelphia. So, again, anybody's name you want to throw out there, and there's a whole Patrick Surtain rumor that popped up an hour ago on some fake Twitter account that Eagle fans are freaking out about. Every time there's a fake Twitter account, I get tagged in it, being like, "Is this real?" Like I know, it's like I'm some sort of
hey,
Sherlock Holmes on trade rumors. I try to be, but
you can do the investigation for us.
The odds of that happening, I think, stay slim. We know how he's calling people, but as I keep saying, if the Eagles trade for a big-name secondary player, it will be at the deadline. It will be the weekend before or that Monday, right? I think the 31st is a Monday. It'll be that day, and it'll be a deadline move because teams realize they're not going to keep these guys long-term because they're either going to demand trades in the offseason or they're going to walk in free agency.
Yes. Yep. I'm with you. I think it's going to be someone. I'm going to be shocked if we don't make a move for anyone in the secondary, I guess specifically for the safety position. So be curious of who that is. Got you down, Andrew, for the super chat, by the way. Appreciate that. But yeah, as far as who that is going to be, I had been vocal of Jeremy Chinn. I liked the idea of it. I thought it could be a possibility. Hate that he's out now for 6 weeks. I think we had some chats earlier as Sean Sarcasm was cleaning up here of some of the comebacks. But no, I mean, I agree. It's a question of who that's going to be. Now, Sean says we could swing Harrison Smith. I'm telling you, the Vikings are sell now. I mean, I don't know. To me, they're not in sell now yet. Now they're right up against the ropes. Like they've got to go on a streak here, but I can't see that. And again, you're looking at the contracts. You just mentioned it, kind of alluding to the situation of what do you get yourself into whenever you make an acquisition like that. I feel like, because you got to be careful. Again, I think we all know what you're going to give up draft capital. We have a lot for next season, but Howie's not going to go out there and be like, yeah, hey, let's go ahead and, give up a third rounder or something like that. It would shock me if it's anything better than a fourth round. And even with that, you're still talking about what is the contract situation. So if you get that back in, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say anything's impossible because we know Howie and he's done some crazy things, but to me, it wouldn't surprise me if it'd be great if it's a Justin Simmons, but it also wouldn't surprise me if it's a name that's kind of like, oh, wow, I didn't really think that I heard the name, but, that's not a major signing or a big name signing to the role, but it is to fill in with some, I don't know, fill some stopgaps there just with an extra body, so to speak. But I don't know. I'm curious, what we'll see. Will Derek Barnett, we got a question earlier here. Let's see, who was that? They're saying, will Derek Barnett get traded? Brian
for
Bennett,
what?
when we trading Barnett? That's
for
the question.
What?
Yeah. For what? How much are we going to be willing to get? I'm for it if we could get something back for him, but what's that going to be?
Nothing. Zero. He has 0 sacks in like 700 days. There was some crazy stat. He has 0 pressures in 600 days.
Show. You mentioned it today. Yeah, I was like,
it's not good. It's not good. It's really not good. Jeez, yeah, you're not trading Derek Barnett for anything less than swapping 7th-round draft picks or something like that. Backyard Birds podcast, 5 entries into our Kelly Green jersey giveaway. It is Kelly Green jersey week. He says Julio could be special. I'm interested in a safety. I think that sums up all of us, right? I think that is the perfect super chat to sum up all of us. Julio could be special. Maybe we hope Julio Jones will be special. But we're all more interested in a safety or somebody in the secondary, right? Like that's kind of where all of us are living right now. We got you down for 5 though, Backyard, and then Eagle 1 with a $5 super chat. Didn't say anything, so if you want to comment something, then I could throw it up on the screen, Eagle 1. But you have 5 entries if you want to get in on the Kelly Green jersey giveaway that is happening, obviously, a little bit later on. I think next week, whenever we do the Commander game on both of our shows. Okay, Patrick. I see the Patrick Surtain thing here from Born Rich. Denver's in complete rebuild mode. They might try to get Caleb Williams. This whole idea of eating Russell Wilson's contract and cutting him during this certain time of next year when it saves them a little bit of money. It's all true, but Surtain is the one untouchable piece if you're Denver, right? You can't sell everybody. You can keep some people, and Surtain would be the one that you would. Now, if they wanted to give us Patrick Surtain for a 3rd-round draft pick, Howie would have already done it. He would have probably given up a 2nd-round draft pick. Surtain's a top 3 corner in the NFL right now, and he's young on a rookie deal. But that's not a player that Denver would want to actually get rid of. So I think most people would agree that it's just not going to happen. Eric Torres, he gives 2. He says, how about reuniting with Jalen Mills? My ignorance is going to show off here, but is Jalen Mills a free agent? I honestly do not know. I need to look this up because I have no idea.
Go back to the Patriots, or
I thought that he did.
Did I just make that up?
He is a Patriot. There you go. His current team is the New England Patriots. Yes. Okay. So sure, if they want to trade him, I guess if you really want him. The Green Goblin capped during the Eagles Super Bowl run and was never really the same. They convert to safety, didn't really work out. Even in New England, he was kind of iffy, right? He really peaked from being a 6th-round draft pick out of LSU with the Super Bowl as a corner, and then never really got to the next level that we were kind of hoping that he would be. But hey.
And his name had surfaced, or I guess resurfaced, in the offseason. I think we both talked about it. I remember doing a show way back when, in kind of the same sentiment. Love the Green Goblin, love what he was able to help and all that. But yes, it's like at this point, I don't think so. Especially if you just take a look again. I know we've suffered some injuries, so for sure, let's do something or make sure that the guys can stay healthy. But as far as like getting that name there, it doesn't strike me as, hey, we got Jalen Mills, problem solved. It's, hey, we got Jalen Mills, so like we can afford another injury. Hope like just an extra body in there.
He's a warm body.
Yeah, it's an extra guy. So no offense to the Green Goblin, but
no, of course,
that's how I feel.
We don't win that Super Bowl without him, although he did give up a lot of yards in that Super Bowl, but I digress. We still won. Eagle won 10 more. He didn't say anything, but 10 more entries into the Kelly Green jersey giveaway. So shout out to Eagle 1 giving this away during the Commander game. Any Super Chat gets you entries. I saw a comment that I wanted to get to. Where was it? Wouldn't mind Desmond King signing. Great slot cornerback recently released by the Steelers. Mentioned him along with Jalen Hawkins, the safety released by the Atlanta Falcons. I live in Atlanta and used to cover the Falcons on their radio network. And Jalen Hawkins was a very bright, shining potential star that they loved at camp a couple of years ago, and he never blossomed into anything special. Did play 16 games last year at safety, but he wasn't really good, hence why he didn't start this year when they went ahead and traded for Jesse Bates. I wouldn't mind him, like you said, warm body, and the mention of Desmond King is also a great idea, although the Eagles had a chance to get King in the past and kind of passed up on him, so they must not be too big of fans. And they also picked Roby ahead of him because they could have traded for Desmond King. So I guess now that he's officially going to be released, it could make some sense. But yeah, like same thing that Josh said with the Green Goblin, the rest of them. They're warm bodies who could fill in with injuries, but unless you get a Simmons or a Baker or one of these superstar safeties, they're not going to really be a page turner for a lot of us in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I agree. You're not going to get one of those. I mean, I could see it just as likely as if not more likely. Just the way that Howie's trying to make some good moves, but get the acquisition that's not like, I don't know, the superstar headline of, oh my gosh, this is a massive trade. Not that he won't, and not that that's impossible, but
yeah,
I think if I had to choose or I had to predict it, I would feel like it's leaning more towards just going to get another guy for depth. Could end up working out. But, we'll see. It's kind of a low risk, high reward type of situation. Now, I did see from Nate earlier, this is way up there, but Nathaniel Bowden, who was asking, why haven't they tried Penny in the red zone at all? Speaking of names that you acquire and,
Great question.
Now, we haven't seen him at all, let alone the red
He doesn't
zone. But
exist.
I'm curious, your take if we're ever going to see a Rashad Penny. I mean, not even the red zone. Let's just say, let's open it up. Are we going to see him? Period.
No, I don't think so. I mean, he obviously has done something to be in Nick Sirianni's, outhouse or whatever it is, doghouse. They just don't want to use him at all. Quickly, Let me just say this. Jalen Hawkins was claimed by the Chargers, although multiple teams did put offers in on waivers, by the way, so get that out of the way. Now, listen, if they really thought Rashad Penny would move the needle, wouldn't they have played him by now, right? Like, we always do this with coaches, because we're not coaches. You guys watching are not coaches. We're not in NFL coaching rooms. They're not that dumb.
Maybe coaches, just
okay,
maybe.
But like coaches aren't that stupid, right? Like if they really thought Rashad Penny could make an impact on this team and score in the red zone like we think that he could, wouldn't they have tried him? Right? Wouldn't they have tried him? So. There has to be some sort of trust from us as innocent bystanders and not NFL head coaches to understand that there's a reason he's not playing. Now, I don't get it, and I agree with you guys. Why not give a couple red zone carries over Kenny Gainwell? But
sure,
they don't do it, and the fact they haven't done it yet after struggling running the football each of the last 3 weeks, 14 people carried the ball for like less than 30 yards on Sunday. There's something there that they don't like about it, but they still keep him, which means they think he could fill in if someone got injured. I guess I don't know. He's one of the big head scratchers. He
really is. Yeah,
that and Gainwell red zone touches, but he is one of the big head scratchers.
It is. And I wonder, and I don't have the stats. I think that we looked at this like in the offseason. I could be wrong, but I feel like we had this discussion now. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there might be something to do with Penny and in the shotgun, like with the RPO situation.
Maybe.
Like it feels like, I could be totally wrong. So this is hypothetical here. But it feels like Penny is already one of those runners. Now, he's probably, from what we've seen and the fact that the Eagles staff is not willing to give him touches, probably not at that level. But it feels like even whenever he was in, prime Penny situation, like he needs a little bit more of a head start. Like he's not as shifty or fast. Like it's easy to see this just the eye test. Like a DeAndre Swift, you get him the ball instantly, he can go. Penny's great at patience. He can break tackles. He's really strong, physical. I don't know if it's like, is it not the best scheme situation for him? Or is it just the fact that, hey, you know what? He probably doesn't look like he used to coming off of that terrible leg injury that he had. So I don't know. It's, again, speculation. They obviously have seen enough, to your point, the coaching staff throughout training camp, throughout games, practices, and everything else, that they're saying, you know what? This guy's on the roster. We at least have him on the roster, but other than that, aside from, major injuries to other running backs, he's not going to get many carries. So that's the way we see it.
Brian Carroll, 5 entries into our Kelly Green jersey giveaway. Remember, drop any super chat, get you entries, and obviously $1 one entry, 5 here from Brian Carroll, and then of course sub to both channels. And then we got Texas Philly, who says showing love from Austin, Texas. Go Birds! There you go. That's close to Josh, kind of just down the old. What is that, 35? Highway 35 to get to Austin? Yep. Not bad. Go through Waco, our old stomping grounds, to get there. So Texas, Philly, we got you down there as well. I saw a couple of comments that I thought were interesting. One, Derrick Henry trade rumors. There was a rumor circulating from CBS Sports saying the Titans could be shopping Derrick Henry, which they should shop Derrick Henry because he is at the end of his career. You're not going to, win a Super Bowl in Tennessee very clearly. Tannehill's hurt. Malik Willis is trash. There's all these different things. But Philly doesn't need Derrick Henry. And you mentioned it right there with Rashad Penny. Henry's not a read option running back. He's an I formation, single back, get a full head of steam, get rolling down that hill, and then start running over people. He doesn't fit in this offense. He just doesn't fit in this offense. Although, if you do want to go back to before the draft, when that American Ninja Warrior guy, former NFL player, said that the Derrick Henry trade was a done deal to Philly, and then it fell through. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I'd be very surprised.
Yeah, I guess, again, you can't ever rule out anything for sure.
I guess.
And, again, you're not saying, I know that you're not saying that Derrick Henry, it doesn't make this team a little bit better, but to your point, scheme-wise, he's just not the best. You look at Swift, you look at him, I'm just saying, yes, I agree with you. The speed, the shiftiness, what he brings to the table, it's not the same. Now you could get, if the Eagles did, if Howie, let's say, shocked a lot of us, maybe not everyone, but a lot of us, and said, hey, we're going to go out there and get Derrick Henry. They've already got a plan. He's not making that move without talking to Sirianni and talking to Brian Johnson, saying, hey, can we work with this? Does this work schematically? So, sure, if that happened, maybe they're going to figure out something. But yes, I remember the Baja Biamila I mean, he set the world on fire is basically what he did,
He,
because
like,
everyone's like, "Oh
guaranteed
my
it.
gosh, we are
He
about to get
pointed. He
King
was like,
Henry." And then, yeah, it was a couple of days of, all right,
yeah.
it's coming, it's coming, and then
Mhm.
nothing. So it just fell flat. But, again, to your point, who knows? There's time for the trade deadline. Maybe Howie shocks us and we get a massive move. I don't know.
He would be cheap, by the way. Talking about what it would cost, he would cost a 6th-round
Yeah.
draft pick. There is no market for taking on his contract and keeping that. I mean, it would be cheap. We'll at least say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
David Moore, 20 entries into our Kelly Green jersey giveaway. Fly Eagles fly. Let's go with that win
Dave, what's up?
Saturday night. I can't wait for this game. Honestly, like, Josh and I circled this game on our calendars before we bought tickets for it as one we wanted to go to, because we wanted to go to one away game, which is going to be the Cowboy game most likely, and then obviously the Eagle game, an Eagle home game. But now that it's week 6 and we're a couple days away from it, you're bringing your wife. She's never been affiliated. Bring my fiance. She's never been affiliated.
Yeah.
It's exciting. But the whole aura around the Kelly Green night, I think it's going to be a playoff atmosphere. I really do. And I was there for both playoff games last year. You and I were both there for the NFC title game. And the NFC title game was the craziest Eagle atmosphere I've ever been to. Like, it's nuts. And it won up the divisional round. I was there the week before. I think you're going to see something very similar on Sunday night. And I think Miami has their work cut out for them. I mean, truly. Like, the Eagles are banged up. Mm-hmm. But this is a true road test for Tua and the Dolphins. They're not going to be in warm, sunny Hard Rock. It's probably going to be chilly. There might be a little bit of wind. I think the Eagles could make a real statement on Sunday, and I think the fuel of the Kelly Green, if you can even call it that, might help out a little bit.
It surely has to. I'm with you. I'm so hyped for this game. The fact that you're gonna have the light show, you're gonna have the Kelly Green jerseys unveiled. Like, no one wants to start out with a loss. I mean, again, it's in the middle of the season. You've already lost, but there's got to be, even if no one's gonna come out and say it, the players surely have to be thinking, all right, this is the first game to kind of redon the Kelly Green jersey, so to speak. Yeah. So there's going to be extra emphasis. I'm with you. I can't wait. Again, the first game going to the link at the NFC Championship game, the bar has been set astronomically high, but I think it's going to be phenomenal. I can't wait. Going to be decked out Kelly Green, going around Philly and everything else. I got a poll up here now as well, if anybody wants to get in. Curious of where the best cheesesteak place is to go to. So I look forward to try that out. Looks like D'Alessandro's is quite a bit ahead. It's 53%, but the other 3 options that I have up there are nowhere near in terms of the percentage, kind of splitting it. So we'll see. But I can't wait. This is like so amped for the last month and a half that we've known that we actually purchased the tickets. It is going to be through the roof.
Shout out to Create Your Own Opinion. Been watching your podcast for a while, guys. Your info is superb, always on time. I have a podcast as well. Be thrilled to check it out and keep up Godspeed. Shout out to Create Your Own Opinion there in the comments section. Let's just quickly mention, do you have a Kelly Green jersey? Did you order one?
I did not. I tried to, but then whenever the whole delay and ordering and all that other stuff, I was like, you know what? We're going to be there, so just go to the pro shop and let's see what they have, if there's any availability. So that's basically what we're going to roll with. But yeah, I'm going to have to get one.
Because my plan is, because I got my fiance one, but it's not the right fit. Like the ladies versus the men's. Like, we're gonna go try to exchange it. But I think we land in the afternoon on Saturday. I think we're gonna Uber straight to the pro shop at the link, because it'll be open, and try and get one then. And then I'm gonna try and get one then too. Because I thought, I can just wear my normal Smitty midnight green, but I think you gotta wear Kelly green. I think I'm gonna have to get one. So I think I'm gonna go on Saturday, because Sunday is gonna be a zoo. Because I don't want to do it on Sunday. I think I'm going to try to go get it Saturday. Yeah. So
definitely, Saturday is the call. So
that's the way
we're gonna tour the stadium on Saturday. We're getting in late Friday night, and then we got a stadium tour on Saturday morning. So if you text me, you said you need to swap it out though. I was gonna say you could text me and I could get it, but yeah. I don't know which Kelly Green to go with. That's the only question. We'll see, I guess, what they have.
I don't
people know what's available at the pro shop. But yeah, I don't know. Then I got to figure out which one. So I've already got the AJ midnight green, but what do you go with for Kelly Green?
Well, we're giving one away, and we got 2 more people getting in on the entries here. We're gonna give this away during the Commander game, so two games from now, because we're not gonna be there obviously to broadcast on Sunday, because we'll be at the game. Chase with 5, he says, "Go Birds, Chase." Appreciate the drop in the 5. And then Fade N2 Gaming, he says, "I'm worried about our offensive line. Once Lane went down, Hurts got pressured a lot. I think Howie will look for trading for the offensive line. I don't think he will trade for it. But I am worried as well. And now I do think that if Lane plays, and it looks like he will based on reports, Brian Baldinger today mentioned it at the top of the show. Brian Baldinger said, worked out with him today, he's going to be fine. So, okay, let's just hope that that's the case. But if he can't play, they need to have a solution to Jack Driscoll, whether it's chipping, whether it's keeping a tight end in to help out, whether it's moving Lane Johnson from right to left or left to right. I don't know, but there needs to be something because you are correct. Hurts got beat up from that right side, and it was definitely tough to watch.
Yes, yeah, we've got to answer that or figure out a solution there. You're right. Hopefully Lane is playing, and hopefully we can buy into what Baldy's saying. I feel like we can, but yeah, if he doesn't, then question on who do you have there? Do you chip? Do you help him in a little bit more of instance? You surely have to because of what we saw. Now, I would hope that there's a little bit of a better performance. I'll just put this out there for Driscoll in terms of he'll at least have a full week to somewhat prep. Like I would assume at this point they're still saying, hey, you go ahead and plan like you're going to start, because until we know for sure that Lane's playing, let's make sure that you're in there and good to go. Now you could bring up, and actually Brian says this here. Brian Bennett, has Steen seen any reps? So far, I haven't seen anything. I've looked on Twitter, haven't seen anything there.
I have not.
Question of, would he come into the game? Will he play even? I don't know. Like, he got a lot of reps at left tackle and right guard, but I didn't hear about any reps. Even if we go back to training camp, I'm not sure of, maybe a tiny bit at right tackle, but I don't know. I think it was mostly, if I remember, left tackle and right guard that they were having him go back and forth with. So, that's a possibility, but I don't know that you necessarily want to ask your rookie to go in first time NFL action when you drafted him to be the right guard. He was mainly at right guard at camp, a little left tackle, and say, oh, by the way, let's kick you out to the right tackle position. And good luck Sunday Night Football atmosphere. So I don't know. I feel like it'll be Driscoll going forward if Lane can't play, but I would think it'd be a little bit better. But again, to your point, they got to help out Driscoll. They have to, because we've talked about this a number of times. Hurts has gotten a decent amount of time in the pocket, but the play calling seems to go with, these longer developing routes. I mean, heck, Jalen was, I think, the longest time to throw out of all quarterbacks this past week. So, some of it, again, you got to credit Jalen. Some of it was him creating more time and being able to be good with his legs there. But if we could get a little quicker with, just some quick screen passes or, quick slants to AJ, some of the times it's like, why are we making this more difficult, especially if there's going to be pressure? So I don't know, it'll be interesting to see. Definitely, still something you're going to have to game plan if Lane is not going to be there. So I don't know. I'll be interested. Real quick, I was going to mention too, 610 Josh, good name, by the way, asked, do we know if Julio's playing Sunday? We don't know officially. We would hope.
Don't know officially.
I think
he will.
I do too. We both agree that he probably will. We would hope or think, but nothing official yet.
Wearing number 80 also, by the way, which is very interesting for Julio. But 6 was also weird when he was in Tampa. It was like, well, what's going on? So Texas, Philly, $1 more. So making him up to 3 here in terms of our Killer Green jersey giveaway. We got you down there. How about Gil saying, Gil from Jersey, living in Alpharetta, Georgia. Gil, you're just up north of me. I'm in Chamblee. Absolutely love both of your shows. Best Eagles YouTube channels. Go Birds. There you go. We appreciate that.
Appreciate that, yes.
That is definitely the goal. Okay. Let's talk a little bit briefly, because we both agree on this. Let's talk briefly about Donovan McNabb, who gets a lot of hate in Philadelphia anytime he talks. The problem is, when he does talk, he's normally ripping some sort of Eagle player, so people don't like it. I don't have anything against the guy. I respect the hell of him, and I obviously was his biggest fan as a kid, because that was the quarterback I grew up watching when I was young, watching the Eagles go to the NFC title game a whole bunch. But McNabb's take on A.J. Brown, I'll be honest, it's not far off. Now, AJ clapped back and said, hey, it's not about targets. It was not about targets. Quit saying, talking about stuff you don't know anything about. Do we believe AJ Brown was not arguing with Jalen Hurts about targets against the Vikings? I think you got to trust the guy. But McNabb is basically saying that when your superstar receiver demands targets, you do start to kind of focus in on him and hone in on him. And even though they shared the ball well against the Jets, there are times, and Dan Orlovsky talked about it on Get Up a couple days ago, where Hurts is seemingly not looking at checkdowns because he's trying to hit the big play to AJ. Now, whether that's because AJ said something or not, who knows? And that's the knock on McNabb, because he doesn't actually know. But McNabb had the ultimate diva as a teammate and had to deal with T.O. demanding the football every single day during that one season. And you're not saying A.J. Brown is T.O. He's not even close. He's way, way more mature. But I could see a little bit, tiny bit of truth to the idea that if Brown did say something, whether it was, dramatic or not, or he's just like, hey, man, I'm open. I'm always open. Find me. I think Hurts is looking a little bit too much his way and not taking what the defense is giving you, which if you watch the all-22 from the Jets game, he has Goddard on some dump-offs. He has Swift on some dump-offs. He has Devontae Smith on some checkdowns, and he's not just looking at them as much as he should. And that's a knock on Hurts. It's not a knock on A.J. Brown. It's a knock on Hurts. But I think the McNabb hate is a little bit far-fetched on this case because he's not totally wrong.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand it. Again, we both talked about it in our shows. It's tough because there's truth on both sides. And if you're looking at it as realistically, as objectively as you can, I think that most of us come to that realization or would say that. Now, I get it, that it's an immediate emotional response because I had a hard time hearing that and going, what the heck are you talking about? When you look at the targets from a past game, and the media is going to run with this and attention grabber and all this other stuff. But yes, to your point, there's some times where you do question, and I think just about everyone. I mean, if I look at my comment section, yours as well, everyone with the AJ debacle or whatever you want to call it. I mean, I know AJ said it was not about targets, but I feel like that's being very technical then. It was about, being looked at on the field. Maybe not targets, but looking his way. Whatever you want to say there. But come on, every time that we see wide receivers like this, I think everyone's initial inclination is that it's something to that effect. Now, to say that it is, or to allude to the fact that it is like blowing it out of proportion or saying that this is, catastrophic to the offense.
It's not. Yes.
It's not at that part. So it's kind of in between, but I get the emotional response on both sides saying, this is ridiculous. McNabb should shut up, or the fact that AJ Brown needs to, quit being a diva because, there's probably some truth to both of those. Honestly, I'm like, we know this, you just said it, but Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, they're best friends. Yes. They're fine. You look at the clip, even as AJ's kind of, supposedly, apparently he's heated, but he's tearing into Jalen or whatever you want to call it. Jalen's literally saying, I got you. So he's okay. And he knows how to talk to him. And then AJ after the fact says, hey, we dealt with it. We're good. No big deal. Yeah. But yes, I think that there's times where it does appear like either Jalen is not progressing through the reads as quickly, or maybe it's just him in general saying, I'm going to try to take the deep shot. And we love the deep shot. Don't get us right. Everyone loves the big plays, and scoring that way. But there are times where you sit there and you go, why in the world is this a situation where it feels like he has all day? Hurts has all day. And maybe it's a play calling. Again, we could always bring it back to that too. But there's got to be some balance of routes to go with. Get in the running game a little bit more because I think we all agree there was way too much passing in that game. So there's something else. I'm hopeful that we can figure it out. But I don't think it's a time to say let's go blow this thing up. And I feel like that struck a nerve with AJ too. He's like, really, of all people, you're going to be saying this because the media was going to just take it and run with it at that point.
Dirty D20 says, Kelly Green, baby. Brian Johnson better put his big boy pants on because he's been subpar at best. Go Birds from Augusta, a.k.a. Augusta-delphia. I've been to Augusta the one time I got to go to the Masters. It is a very small little Georgia town, but a lot of fun.
Jealous.
Come early April. Yeah, I got very lucky. I probably will never go again. It was just a whim. A friend's father said, you want to go? And I was like, yep, I want to go. And it was as magical as you would think. But enough about the Masters. Incredible. Okay, one quick thing on Brian Johnson. I think that Brian Johnson has been okay. He has not been perfect. We obviously have, talked about the red zone issues and some of the play calling issues. But I will say, if the offense is 80% Brian Johnson, or let's say this, if the offense is 70% Johnson not doing as well as Shane Steichen did, and 20% offensive line because they're not run blocking well right now. And Jason Kelce talked about it today. You're averaging 1.9 yards per rush on Sunday against the Jets, 3.9 the past 3 weeks. The other 10% is Hurts not playing well. Like there is a combination here. It's not just this idea that, Brian Johnson is in over his head and he's dumb and he can't figure things out and he's not a good play caller and he schemes it up wrong. No, it's ridiculous to think that Steichen is eons better than Brian Johnson. They both were in the Eagles, coaching staff last year. Johnson is a clone. I mean, he is a Steichen disciple, if you will. But for as much as we rip him, we do need to acknowledge that Hurts has been worse than he was in 2022. He hasn't been that much worse. He made a lot of big throws in that Jets game. You take away one of those turnovers that wasn't his fault, the Swift fumble, the weird drop by Dallas Goedert, they probably win. He's not been awful, but he's not been as good. And we have to at least acknowledge that fact when we want to rip Brian Johnson. And I am no Brian Johnson lover. I don't think he's perfect. I don't think he's going to get a head coaching job, for instance, at the end of this year. But Hurts needs to be a little bit better, and you have got to be able to admit that, because the problem for Cowboy fans is they never want to admit that Dak has flaws, and it burns them all the time. And while Jalen Hurts is not Dak Prescott and has nowhere near the amount of flaws, he's not perfect. He's not Tom Brady. And he so far has not been 2022 Jalen Hurts, and we need to see that sooner rather than later to make sure that our Super Bowl aspirations stay afloat this season, because if the Jalen Hurts from Sunday is the Jalen Hurts you get the rest of the year, it's going to be a lot harder to go back to the Super Bowl than it was in 2022. But he's not been perfect, and you can't just blame Brian Johnson for all the Eagles' shortcomings.
That's totally fair. You can't blame them all. I will say that I don't think it's like, I don't know that there's an eons of difference, but I do feel like there is a significant difference in my viewpoint of Shane Steichen and Brian Johnson. Now, again, you look at the numbers, the Eagles are number 2 in offense. So yes, he's done a good job.
Yes.
But I think that there's still an element. And at the same time too, I mean, if we look back, and I think that you had it on your show, like if you just look stats wise, I know stats don't tell all the story, but still, if you look stats wise, it's very similar to what it was last season. So like there's exactly a tendency. Exactly. So there's a tendency though to look at it with the eye test and go, blow it up. This is terrible. Like, we're seeing some issues or some concerns from Jalen, which we are, like you mentioned, but let's have a little bit more patience, right? Because this is still 6 weeks in. What happens 6 weeks from now? If we look at it 6 weeks from now, we're saying this is still the same concern, then okay, that's fair. Now, again, as looks like Dispirited, I think it said this earlier, the comments that Brian Johnson had made earlier about the pass plays being the extension of the running game is concerning. I don't love to hear that comment. I kind of understand where he's going with it, but at the same time, if you have 45 or 50 pass plays and you only run the ball 14 times, it's a little bit concerning. Of course, I can understand the flip side of that argument. You're not getting a lot of yards per carry, but I feel like you got to stick with it, right? I mean, sometimes it doesn't hit. It takes even in the 49ers game, again, the NFC Championship, after the first quarter, you would have said, oh man, this rushing attack's not going to work, but you stick with it, and all of a sudden you, after the game, go, well, yeah, the 49ers couldn't handle it at all. So I don't know. There's some of both there, but I agree. I mean, overall, it's let's have a little more patience. We're still 5-1. You got a big game coming up here, and let's see if the coordinators can start figuring out if Brian Johnson can. I think that's where we're at. So we'll see what they can do on it.
And let's just dispel this whole notion that Philadelphia was perfect last year and they had no flaws and the offense was fantastic week after week after week. Not true at all. They were down double digits to Jacksonville at home in week 4. They came back to win that game. Hurts only threw for 204 yards. It was in the rain, but still. They barely beat Arizona on a game-winning field goal on the road. Barely beat Arizona. They struggled a little bit in the second half against the Dallas Cowboys. They lost to Washington in a game where Hurts had 175 yards and their leading rusher was Miles Sanders with 54. Like this whole idea. And then the next week, they barely beat the Colts, who were terrible, by week 11 of last year. This whole idea that last season was some sort of perfect cakewalk where Philadelphia just rolled everybody and they had never had an issue and it was all sunshine and rainbows. Jalen Hurts didn't look that great in the win against New York in Week 18, which they kind of had to win to lock up home field advantage. The offense as a whole looked terrible in Week 17 without him against the Saints. Like, we all focus in on this 3-week stretch, or really 4-week stretch because of the little mini bye week in the Super Bowl, where they dropped 31, 38, and 35 against the Chiefs. But this whole idea that the Eagles this year are so much worse offensively than they were in 2022 is a joke. They're worse than the peak of 2022, because at their peak in 2022, they were the best offense in the NFL, and they haven't gotten close to that yet this year. But the bottom end of this season is exactly as it looked last season, and we just, for whatever reason, have forgotten about it. And so this whole idea that it's just, oh, the Eagles are just trash this year. No, they're not trash this year. They're still trying to figure some things out. And you saw this last season. You just don't want to, remember it. You probably have forgotten.
Yeah. I agree. It's easy sometimes to remember back and reflect on, just the good times or the ride and, oh my gosh, we were just so dominant. But there are, if we remember, and you just pulled it up kind of running back down memory lane, there were some tough games. There were some losses there. There were some struggles or some concerns and going, wait a minute, again, we talked about it, I think on a previous live show or maybe on our individual shows, but like going into the playoffs, there was some concern of, what is this team going to look like? It doesn't feel great whenever it's a struggle against the Giants backups to win a game that you need to have. So
Yeah.
I think it's to pump the brakes a little bit. I do want to get to Abigail Sanchez's comment on on Howie making a big move. But real quick, I wanted to bring up, because I thought Sean actually had a pretty good idea here. He says what we need to do as a fan base is pull a Turner on Johnson, the Trey Turner for the Phils, and flip the script to cheer him on.
There you go.
I mean, hey, you know what? That would
work.
I think that would be fantastic. I don't know. It's easier in a baseball game naturally, because you wait till a guy comes up to the plate. So I don't know how you exactly do that for Brian Johnson, but I'm all for that, because surely he's got to be, even if he's as focused as he can be, I'm sure he's hearing a little bit more noise, a little bit more rumblings, questions in the press conference, that he's getting. He's probably feeling some of that pressure and hot seat. So why not? Let's flip the script. I'm all for that. Okay, but the question, though, back that I was going to, Abigail Sanchez said, Julio's a nice ad. So we mentioned that earlier, talking about Julio Jones. But we need help in the secondary first. I believe Howie makes a bigger pickup before the deadline. So we talked about this earlier. I'd be curious, Abigail, if you have any recommendations or who you think that we should go with. Thomas and I were bringing up Jeremy Chinn is naturally off the market, the 6-week quad injury. I've seen some Budda Baker in my old shows comments now saying, let's go get him. That's going to be probably a consistent theme, until there's a resolution to this, if there is one. Justin Simmons, like we mentioned. But overall, I think, again, to recap what we talked about earlier, is it feels like there could be, not to cross it off and say how he won't do it, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's just bringing in another body for some depth. You hope to get past or until Justin Evans comes back from the IR. Is that your solution? Or does Sidney Brown play well? He could possibly get a start for the first time this week. And if he plays well this week, then he's got himself a starting job, because I don't know that there's a tougher matchup than taking on the Dolphins and their aerial attack to get your first NFL start as a safety.
Nathaniel Bowden says, I read an article this morning comparing us to last year's Vikings. Please tell me what newspaper had that article. I'd be fascinated. I hope the Inquirer is not.
That would be interesting to hear that.
Not making that comparison. I sure hope not.
I wonder if I haven't read it. But I'm wondering, is it point differential based? I know how the Vikings had such a low point differential, and ours doesn't look great, but still, I would be curious on more of the specifics to that one.
Ball is Life says, we know the Dolphins are an offensive powerhouse, but their defense is mid at best. Sunday's game will be a shootout for sure. Yeah, it is funny to think about the fact that the Dolphins are an absolute firepower, but they went to the Buffalo Bills, Orchard Park a couple of weeks ago, and their offense looked very mid, right? If you can get pressure on Tua Tagovailoa, he is kind of a first-rate quarterback. That's not a knock on Tua. He's great, but he is like a, where's Tyreek, ball out? Like, it's his whole thing, is get the ball out quickly to a wide-open Tyreek Hill. If Philly wins on Sunday night, 31-24, and Jalen has no picks, all this talk about like how we're trash and the offensive play calling is bad and this and that, like it instantly stops. Instantly stops. People go back to, trash talking Cowboy content creators on Twitter. They go back to talking about how we're going to win the Super Bowl and how Brock Purdy stinks. It can be resolved very quickly with a win, and I'm very excited for that to happen, because it'll be a welcome moment, very, very much so.
Absolutely, yes. And with Sean Desai too. We've talked about Brian Johnson and the offense and everything there, but I think both of us have mentioned it a couple times, but the fact that what Sean Desai has done, his job, and being able to take over the defense, manage with the lack of players that he's had. I don't know that I would have ever expected that the defense more often, not every game, but more often is the side that's showing up better than the offense is. And so, kudos to him. He's got his work cut out for him for sure this week. But if he could do something here where you're limiting the number one offense in the NFL, that's saying something for sure.
Dirty D mentioned that here with his $5 super chat and entry into our jersey giveaway. Desai is great. He's a huge upgrade from Gannon. This man has made it work with all these injuries. Gannon would have been a nightmare. I think we can all agree about that. Spilled Milk says, what the hell is going on with Eli Ricks? He was a full participant in practice today, Spilled Milk, so he's going to go. He was a full participant. Little knee issue, but he's young, and those young injuries tend to bounce back a lot quicker. No issues there at all.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm looking forward to seeing it. Another thing too, Luis Harris, the last word, says to a revenge game for Hurts. That's interesting. Do you believe in that? Do you think that there's anything to that?
No, Jalen's not thinking about that. Jalen's thinking about not throwing, 3 interceptions and losing a football game. That's what he's thinking about. Kelsey said it today. Like he gets quote pissed off when he loses football games, because he hasn't lost a lot of them in his career, and he hadn't lost one in 11 straight starts, but going back to the regular season, not the Super Bowl. But he's going to be in revenge mode, and I'm very excited to see him bounce back to this, because it's been a long time since Hurts had back-to-back losses in Philadelphia, go back to his rookie season or whenever he was, in for his first season as a starter, I guess year 2. But I'm excited to see what he can do. And like I said earlier, I think the link is going to be as motivating and electric as it's ever been. The Kelly Green, the Dolphins jerseys, Tua versus Hurts, Tyreek versus A.J. Brown, they're the top 2 receivers in the league. Mm-hmm. The Mostert rushing attack versus the DeAndre Swift. Like, we're very similar football teams. I think our defense is a little bit better. Our defensive line, if Carter plays, is much, much better.
Yeah.
But it's the AFC of the NFC. The Dolphins are the Eagles of the AFC, and the Eagles are the Dolphins of the NFC, minus Speedy Tyreek Hill. They're very similarly built with Waddle and Smith, and I'm very pumped to see this game. This, to me, was game of the year when I saw the schedule before the season. I think the Niner game, depending on where we're at, could really be game of the year in Philadelphia, Week 13, but this is game of the first half of the schedule, and I'm honestly more excited for this one than the Cowboy game a couple weeks later.
Yeah, I am too. There's again, this is the reason why we circled it on the calendar. Hey, let's go to this game. Let's see what it's going to be like. But you add on top of it with the Sunday Night Football atmosphere, the Kelly Green jerseys.
Yes,
I'm so hyped. Again, this week has been the slowest week ever. Even though there's news and all sorts of stuff to talk about, but just to get to Philly, so I can't wait. I'm the fact that you talk about everyone wants to talk about, oh, the Eagles lost to the Jets. They're down. Jalen's not what we thought he was, or anything else like that. I mean, it's one game, and you mentioned earlier, it's one game. As he bounces back, the script is flipped. Everyone's going to say, oh, hey, you know what? All is well, because he had a great game on a big primetime stage against a pretty good team. Certainly from the defensive side, pretty good, very good team of the Dolphins, but defensive, and say he showed up. So that's all it takes. It's one game. You can nitpick, and we do that frequently because it's easy to do. And we're in the weeds so much that, you see a small issue or something that pops up, and then it's like, okay, well, we've had a couple weeks now, and we got some play calling. Now the red zone still needs to be cleaned up. You could make excuses for everything else except for the red zone. I think just about everyone would agree. Red zone play calling situations, and yes, the players need to execute, but the play calling has been abysmal in that spot. And I don't know if it's a combo of Nick inserting himself too much, or if it's Brian Johnson just not having the right play calls, and it's more on his blame. But you got to have an emphasis that improves it on that side. But again, like we talked about in the open here, talk about Julio Jones. That's surely part of the reason you got him, is to hopefully give a little bit of a jolt to the red zone to make defenses account for another playmaker who can, win jump balls perhaps, or just be able to be a better blocker. So I'd like to see it. Again, it's going to be a phenomenal game. I can't wait. We're probably going to, a couple hours beforehand at least for tailgating and stuff to be there. So
we got invited back to the tailgate we went to for the NFC title game. So we're going to swing by that, but we're going to walk around and like we had mentioned, your wife has never been there, and my fiance has never been there. And with us both being Eagle content creators, they're kind of along for the ride in terms of being Eagle fans. Neither of them grew up Eagle fans like you and I did, but their first experience at the link, and they're both going to be decked out in Eagles gear. It's going to be fun to show them around and look at the, the Nick Foles statue, and then get to the seats. And like you said, the light show is going to be electric. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. Andrew says, who's the go-to link food you guys grab? They have cheesesteaks inside the link, and eating a cheesesteak while watching the Eagles on a cold Philadelphia October night is hard to beat. It's very hard to beat.
It'd be interesting. Yeah. Depending on the tailgate, I will say last time, tailgate was pretty awesome.
We had good food at the tailgate.
At a lot of other places, tailgating, it's you're kind of like, okay, it's great, it's okay. There's nothing like a Philly tailgate. I mean, plenty of food and everything else. We went in and I was like, wow, I normally would be hungry during the game, but it wasn't that fact. It wasn't that case. So we'll see. But no, I can't wait. There may be weather depending, but it looked like there possibly could be a little rain in the forecast. I don't know what that does to the game, but we'll see. We might miss it, but it was looking like it was late Saturday. Potentially, if it gets pushed into Sunday, that's what I saw last. I don't know if it's updated now.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Let's see if we can get it up here. This is to Saturday. Okay, so shower 2 around the area in the morning. Oh, this is Saturday. I need to see Sunday. What does Sunday say?
Okay,
Sunday says partly cloudy. No,
okay, that's better. Okay, earlier in the week I checked it. It showed on Sunday. It's like
rain.
Saturday afternoon and Sunday. So
in the rain. Let's hope not. I was at the link, the Jaguar game, and it was just poncho rain. Yeah, it's miserable. It really is miserable. I hate it. So please no rain. Please no rain. I'll take cold. But, I mean, low of what, 42? That'd be fine. That'd be totally fine. 58,
Oh,
42, be
heck yeah.
cold, get the beanie going, maybe
Let's
a
get
little
oh,
coffee,
yeah.
hot
That is
chocolate. That's
some football
beautiful.
weather.
That's what the NFC title game was, wasn't it? Low 50s for us when we were there, and it was
Yeah.
just that
Yeah,
cold,
it
cloudy.
ended up getting
Ooh, it was
down
good.
to what, like 39, 40 or something like
It
that
was
by
cold
the
walking back to the Uber,
yeah,
that's for sure. It was cold.
that was definitely chilly.
What are you
Man,
gonna
you
do?
got me all pumped up again. Just the idea of cold weather because it's like gonna be 92 here or
Yeah,
something
yeah.
over the weekend in Dallas. So yeah, I can't wait. This is gonna be a blast.
There you go. All right, we're at the hour mark there. This has gone by very, very quickly as we had a bunch of people join. A lot of talks about trade and stuff like that. We'll wrap it up with this trade talk. We think the Eagles will make a move, but if Howie thinks that Justin Evans coming back in a couple of weeks, you have 3 weeks and then a bye, so you have 4 weeks before that gauntlet starting with the Chiefs. There is technically a scenario where he doesn't make a move and he rolls with healthy Justin Evans, healthy Reed Blankenship, healthy Sidney Brown, and your normal starting cornerbacks on the side, and it's pretty similar to what he started out with. Now, Josh and I both think he will make a move. Is it Simmons? Is it Budda Baker? Is it, someone else, Desmond King signing him? I don't know, but it does feel like it's going to be there is going to be a move. Nathan says, leave time for the museum in Philly. I don't know if I've been to that one. I don't know how to say that, honestly. Is that
I don't know
Mutter?
either.
I think it's Mutter. I think
Maybe.
it's German.
That's what I've gone with. Yeah.
I'm afraid to butcher it because we're not from Philadelphia. We're just fans, so
Medical History and Science Museum.
Oh,
Okay.
I did not know that. Okay, well, we are going to. I did get a Liberty Bell. No, not Liberty Bell. Independence Hall tickets because I've been to the Liberty Bell and Independence Hall. You have not. You've not. You've never been there.
Nope.
But I haven't gotten to go into the signing room, and so we got tickets for that. So we're going on Sunday morning. So we will have fun with that. Josh, are you bringing your kids? Says Luis. Also, Nathan, we do have you entered 2 entries. I don't think little Georgia. Well, you are bringing 1 kid technically. Just
true. That's true. That's a good.
Not here yet.
You don't have a choice, but yes, 1 kid will be coming because Sandy's pregnant. But the other one is going to be with the grandparents, so she is going to have a blast. But yeah, we'll get the baby moon. That's kind of what's the second baby moon with Sandy being pregnant.
Very fun. All right, we're going to wrap things up here on a Wednesday night. If you guys missed it, just replay it. It'll pop up on both of our channels. Plenty more shows happening. No show on Sunday because we're going to be at the game. But if you're there, come say hi. Be fun to meet you guys. We're in the stadium, and we will be on social media a bunch this weekend. So sure to follow us on Twitter as well. Josh Davis, I'm Thomas Mott. See you guys.
There you go. Go Birds.